You're not lazy, your brain is efficient. It keeps running the paths that are cheapest to fire, even when those paths aren't serving you. If you want peak performance, you don't need a new personality. You need better wiring and a short, repeatable way to lay that wire. Treat time like inventory and energy like electricity. Inventory is limited shelf space. If you overstock tasks, everything spoils and you can't find what matters. Electricity is charge and direction. If a circuit leaks or branches into noise, the output is weak. Peak performance is a discipline of placing only what you can sell on your shelf today and pushing clean current through a single circuit long enough to produce something you can point to. That means fewer context swaps, fast initiation, and a crisp finish signal your brain can learn to crave. Here's the working model in plain terms. Dopamine handles initiation and pursuit. It labels actions as worth starting and continuing when the very next step feels close and promising. Noradrenaline handles alerting. It boosts signal to noise when stakes and novelty are present. But it also spikes with stress and can tip you into avoidance if the target is fuzzy. Acetylcholine stabilizes focus. It lets you hold a representation steady so you can make fine adjustments and reduce errors. Most daily energy leaks come from three places: context switching that forces all three systems to reset, ambiguity that stalls dopamine at the threshold because the next step isn't concrete, and rewards delayed so far into the future that your brain will not front the cost today. Shorten the distance to a meaningful marker, remove ambiguity from the first move, and lock the context long enough for acetylcholine to settle. Do that, and you get a tractable block without heroics. Several myths keep people stuck, and each has a cleaner reframe. The first myth says, motivation must precede action. In reality, action that is trivially startable creates the dopamine trickle that becomes motivation, not the other way around. The second myth says, deep work requires monastic marathons. What your circuits need is an entry ramp that feels safe, a narrow lane with little distraction, and a visible checkered flag. The third myth says, habits make work effortless forever. What habits really buy you is reduced negotiation at the beginning and fewer decisions mid-block, which prevents noradrenaline from tipping into fatigue. The fourth myth says multitasking proves adaptability. In the brain, it only proves you are paying a switching tax that compounds. Reframe motivation as a side effect of tiny wins, deep work as a protected 20 to 45-minute lane, habits as pre-written choices, and multitasking as a bill you no longer agree to pay. Evidence matters, so let's anchor this in findings you can picture. In 2000, Maguire and colleagues scanned London taxi drivers and found enlarged posterior hippocampi relative to controls, implying that years of navigational practice can reshape the brain's map-making region. In 2004, Dragonski's juggling experiment taught non-jugglers a three-ball cascade and measured gray matter increases in motion-sensitive areas after weeks of practice, which partially regressed when practice stopped. In musicians, Elbert's work in 1995 showed enlarged cortical representation for the fingering hand in violinists. The pattern is consistent. Precision plus repetition, under stable context, grows the maps your performance uses, and the gains fade when the behavior fades. Your daily block is not a ritual. It is the dose that moves tissue and circuits in the direction of competence. Two practical levers will move you today. The first is lowering start friction. A task labeled work on budget hides decisions your brain must resolve at the threshold, which feels like standing in front of a locked door. Reduce the door to a handle by naming the very first keystroke or action so precisely that you can begin in under 10 seconds with no new choices. Open spreadsheet budget Q4 and duplicate the row for marketing spend is an on-ramp your motor system understands. Put the file on your desktop or pin it to your dock. Pre-title the artifact you intend to produce and leave the cursor at the exact insertion point before you stop for the day. Your brain loves a half-built bridge and will finish it next time with less resistance. The second lever is context bundling. Pair tasks that share tools and cognitive posture, so you amortize the warm-up cost. Writing 3 emails, drafting a paragraph, and editing a caption all use the same syntax and rhythm. Stack them in one lane rather than scattering them across the afternoon. Bundling lets acetylcholine do its stabilizing job instead of yanking it around. Here's a 20-minute protocol you can run starting right now. Set a timer for 20 minutes and choose one clearly scoped target that ends with a visible binary mark. such as a saved file, a checked box in your tracker, or the phrase section finished at the bottom of a document. Before you start the clock, write the first executable action in 8 to 12 words. For example, open slide deck and paste 3 competitor screenshots into slide 4. Close irrelevant tabs and windows, place any reference you need on the left side of the screen, and bring the working file to the center. Press start. For the entire block, refuse to evaluate. Execute only the next clear step you wrote. If a thought tries to redirect you, park it in a tiny scratch note on the right and return to the exact cursor position. When the timer ends, create a visible finish marker. Save the file with a new version name, tick the box, and write a 1-sentence done line that begins with a past tense verb. Deliver a small reward your brain can feel within 10 seconds. A walk to the window, a sip of something you like, or one chorus of a song. Then decide not drift, either run a second 20-minute block on the same lane, or log the next step for tomorrow and close the context cleanly. Expect friction at 2 predictable points and plan for both. The first is the doorway, when your brain confuses ambiguity with threat and tries to negotiate a different activity. You neutralize it by pre-writing the first action and placing the file under your cursor before you press start. The second is at minute 8 to 12, when the initial dopamine nudge wanes and you have not yet seen the finish. That is when the visible artifact saves you. You're not chasing inspiration, you're chasing a check mark you can physically make. Over a few days, your circuitry learns that the shortest path to feeling better is to finish something small, and initiation gets lighter because the prediction error has flipped in your favor. This approach scales without theatrics. If a task is legitimately too big for a 20-minute lane, you do not need to psych yourself up. You need to cut a seam that creates a new binary finish. Rename write report into outline 3 section headers and write the first sentence for each. Then draft section 1 to 200 words. Then insert one chart and write its caption. Each pass lays another wire on the same route. From the outside, it looks like discipline. From the inside, it is a stack of easy initiations with frequent finish markers that keep dopamine flowing and acetylcholine anchored. Notice what is not promised here. There is no guarantee you will love the work after day 3, and no claim that you can hack sleep, food, or daylight. You simply direct the electricity you have into a single low-leak circuit long enough to produce an artifact. That artifact is not only proof to a manager or a client, it is a training signal to your own brain that this lane is rewarding. Repeat the lane and the map in your cortex thickens, just as the studies show in drivers, jugglers, and musicians. Stop repeating it, and the gains recede. The choice is visible. Run it today. Pick one task that can end in 20 minutes, with a file saved, a box checked, or a short passage written. Pre-write the first action so you can start in under 10 seconds. Start the timer, refuse to evaluate mid-block, finish visibly, reward quickly, and either go again or close the lane on purpose. If this helped you complete one real block, keep me in your corner by subscribing so the next protocol is ready when you need it. And share this with the one person who keeps starting late and finishing never.